Good morning, sports fans. Happy Friday to you all. It is a beautiful day here today. NFL draft last night. It was a blast. We've got an awesome show lined up for you today, an NFL draft round one recap. My name is Dan Bradley. Joining me today, Erik Neff and Griffin Carroll. Good morning, guys. Happy to see you. How we doing today?
Morning.
Doing fantastic. Doing fantastic. It was very exciting night one. Got the adrenaline pumping for football again. I'm excited. I know Griffin's excited.
I am excited. I love this league so much, and it's just great, even just for a little, to have it back. Last year, the Birds, we got our guy. Last year, watching that team became a chore. They were getting me pissed off, upset, disgusted. And honestly, by the end of the year, they had me feeling the worst feeling you can have as a fan, which is apathy. I couldn't care less what happens. Just, God, get this season over with. But that's the beauty of this draft and this league is hope isn't new. That's what this weekend is all about. This league can flip on its head like that. You can just be a piece or two away. So I'm just glad we're back. It's a new season. Let's do this.
I love the energy from the building last night, and you could see how big of a difference it made to have fans in the building after a year where the 2020 draft was entirely virtual. We didn't get to see the fan responses in the same way. To try and get that energy from being in the building and seeing as the picks were coming out. Loved seeing Mac Jones run down the tunnel to congratulate every Alabama player that went off the board. It was cool to see all of that kind of a football community again with last night's draft. I think that was a really fun element to last night's draft.
And that love seat.
You kind of hit my favorite thing, which was the fans being back. Love that. Mm-hmm. I mean, it just it added that element back in. You miss even the bad reactions whenever there's a confounding pick. When the fans are all like, "Oh, what?" That, I mean, that's the best. I love seeing that. You love seeing fan bases cheer along or freak out right along with the rest of us at home. But very glad the draft was live and back in front of an audience again this year.
It was a great year for it to be in Cleveland too. The Browns are on the upswing. They finally win a playoff game, and they're picking in 26. I can't remember. That's the latest they've picked in a long time. So
yeah, when was the last time they weren't a top 20 pick?
I don't know.
That's so true. I don't think I realized that. I don't think I even thought about the fact that the Browns did not have a top 10 draft pick last night. And that might be the first time in my life. I don't know if it's the first time in my life, but it's the first time I know since I've watched the draft closely that they have not had a top pick. So congratulations to the Browns last night for just not having to pick a Justin Fields or a Trevor Lawrence or anybody. Congrats on just being able to skate. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Didn't have to trade up, didn't have to try and trade down, work around there. They were able to take a good cornerback in Greg Newsome II. Solid pick for Cleveland. I like that a lot. And the Browns fans got to stick around. It wasn't like they hung in there and Browns pick second and then all the Browns fans leave and half the building, the noise is gone. They kept that energy up through all of those picks throughout as we went too. So my one gripe, the only thing I had a problem with last night was those weird animations that they would cut to throughout and players you could tell completely digital, the fake animatronics of, hey, this is the simulation of Urban Meyer walking over to greet Trevor Lawrence. Like, that was just weird to me. Other than that, it was perfect for me. I absolutely loved it, but those animations were so weird.
ESPN always tries to get too spicy. They're always doing too much. Like they're constantly doing too much. I will say that I don't know if they listen to social media or just the general public the last couple of years, but this was the first draft ever that I can remember, really, or for years, where we haven't had to talk about someone who has died with every single draft pick. Like it's pretty much every year, like, and they take Trevor Lawrence, whose mother tragically died when he was 7. Like, with every player, we're doing that. And this year I finally noticed they finally caught on to, hey, that's a really cheap way to like, I mean, these players, they deserve our empathy for things like that, but that's a really cheap way to get it. And I think ESPN finally realized that. And hey, let's not talk about tragedy every single draft pick. It's the best moment of some of these kids' lives, most of these kids' lives, and let's focus on that. Let's focus on this is the future. This is the best moment of their life. Let's be happy that they just made $1 million to go play the game they love to play.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to put a pin in the draft for just a moment here because I want to talk about something that almost overshadowed the draft to a degree yesterday, and that was the news that Aaron Rodgers is done in Green Bay. He doesn't want to play there anymore. He wants out. He has reportedly asked for a trade, and the relationship has gotten so frayed it's to the point where Rodgers has said, I'm not coming back to play for Green Bay. You can trade me or I'm going to sit out, but I'm not coming back to play in Green Bay. And we thought maybe that might play into how the Packers drafted last night. And the Packers took cornerback. They didn't take a wide receiver. They didn't take an offensive lineman. What's going on in Green Bay here, guys? Griff, I want to start with you. What direction are the Packers going here?
I don't know. It's weird timing. It really just makes last year's pick of Jordan Love that much weirder to me, that they're so committed to Rodgers for like the next 3 years. Then, like, why did you take a quarterback? It doesn't make any sense to me. Weird timing. I have to imagine they've had conversations in private, and he must feel frustrated to the point he has to leak this out. I'm trying to think of a team. What team would want to take on Rodgers right now? Obviously, he's just won MVP. He's still great. He's 37. So if you're going to shell out multiple first-round picks, you have to be a quarterback away. And the only team that really comes to mind for me is Washington. They've got weapons on offense and a loaded defense. They bring in someone like Rodgers, like that, they could win the Super Bowl. I'm blanking on another team that is a 37-year-old star quarterback away from a Super Bowl. So it's just weird. It's messy. It could get ugly. I don't know what's going to happen.
Maybe if it weren't for the dollars, the New Orleans Saints might be a team that just to try and keep their window open. But even there, they don't have the money, the cap space to take them on.
Exactly. And if it weren't for the being in the NFC North, Dan, your Vikings might not mind having old A-Rod
if that wasn't
throwing the ball
the big
for him.
rival.
Yeah, I mean,
but it wouldn't be unprecedented though. It's not like the Vikings haven't tried to make a Super Bowl run with an ex-Hall of Fame Green Bay quarterback before. We saw that in 2009 with Brett Favre and making the run to the NFC Championship game. And we don't talk about what happened after that. We're just going to let that one slide. Good vibes only today. It's draft day. We're going to focus on that instead.
I don't get this. I don't understand the Packers organization. I just don't. I didn't understand when they took Love last year. Was completely confounding to me. For one thing, I didn't see enough in Love to prompt a first-round draft pick, in my opinion. I mean, I know a lot of people did. I wasn't a big Love guy. To me, he was a second, third-round draft pick, which would have been fine. I know quarterbacks go high now, it's all good. But it was odd to me that Green Bay took him. It's odd to me that they don't stack weapons for Aaron. This is I won't say generational because we also have Tom Brady and we've also had Peyton Manning in this generation. So, but in my opinion, as far as just talent from the quarterback position, Aaron Rodgers is much better than both Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. I would say that just as a quarterback, just talent-wise, he's the best that I've ever seen. And I would load this man up with weapons. I'd load him up with whatever he wants. I mean, what do you want to – I mean, give him a call. Who do you want us to draft, man? You want a receiver? You want a lineman? You want a tight end? You let us know. That's how important this guy is to Green Bay, and I don't understand why he doesn't get that type of treatment. I know that we can't do that with all players. I just would personally, for a player of that caliber, give the man what he wants. I mean, right now, maybe he wants Shailene Woodley and to host Jeopardy and to go out west, which would be fine. That's fine. Go do that. Go. I mean, Who doesn't want Shailene Woodley and to host Jeopardy? Everybody. We all want to do that. So, go have fun, live your life, Aaron Rodgers. But I just don't understand what the Packers are doing, and I really think it speaks volumes that he had to leak this on draft day, which I said before the show started. I believe that was the plan. I believe his plan was to steal a little bit of the draft spotlight and overshadow it, make sure it was huge news, and maybe push the Packers to draft him some more weapons in the first round, which they did not. Again, which is just that's confounding to me. Aaron Rodgers is like, I don't want to play for you anymore. You better get me some weapons. And they're like, who plays defense? Does anybody play defense? It's crazy. That's where I'm at with it. I don't understand what the Packers are doing.
Find someone who loves you like the Packers love not taking a first-round wide receiver. If you do that, that's the best life advice that we can give you here on the Sports 2.0 show. So I want to ask you guys one last thing on Aaron Rodgers. Does he play for any team on week 1 next season? Whether that's via trade, whether it's somehow they repair the relationship with the Packers. Is Aaron Rodgers wearing pads and a jersey during week 1 next season and starting in the NFL week 1 next season?
Yes. Yeah, he just won MVP. He's playing as good as he ever played. He's not walking away.
I say yes, although we did watch Le'Veon Bell have one of the greatest playoffs the running backs ever had and then not play the next year. That was strange to me. That was so weird to watch him pick apart defenses 1 month and then the next month he doesn't play for a year. But yeah, he's definitely in the league. He's playing for somebody. I think he's probably likely playing for Green Bay. I think this was a power move, and whether he gets everything he wants, I do believe that he likely bought himself a new contract last night with everything that happened. I don't think he'll get traded out. If he does, there's about 25 football teams that should be on the phone with Green Bay, even those with some young quarterbacks. Basically, if I don't have Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, I am on the phone with Green Bay, and I'm trying to make a deal because this guy can move your team along very quickly. That being said, if you're not a quarterback, like Griffin said earlier, if you're not a quarterback away, why do this? Why waste more of the man's career middling in the NFL, which is exactly what he doesn't want. So, but I do believe he ends up back in Green Bay, and I believe that they come to their senses and probably sign him or give him a huge extension. So, let's hope we see the MVP of the league in the league next year. That'd be a nightmare. This is my favorite player in the league, by the way. I feel like I should say that. I'm a Dolphins fan, but Aaron Rodgers has been my favorite player in the league for years. I just love watching the guy play. I love the way he does things. Just an exciting guy to play. I'd be devastated if he lost part of a year of his career because the Packers can't draft a wide receiver or a tight end for him. It's kind of crazy.
I think there's maybe about a 10% chance that if Green Bay decides not to move him, that he might hold out at the start of next season, and maybe eventually once they're starting to play games, he comes back. Take a little bit of that time to really rest and get healthy, get your head right as well. But I am with you guys. I think he is, suiting up week 1 next season. Whether that's with Green Bay or with somebody else, I think we see him right off the bat. Going to switch gears here from one of the older quarterbacks in the league to one of the youngest quarterbacks coming into the league, and that is Justin Fields. The Chicago Bears trading up 9 spots to go get the quarterback. Last time they traded up for a quarterback, that didn't work out quite so well. Now with Justin Fields, it's a big swing for the Chicago Bears front office. Griff, what were your thoughts on the Bears trading up to get Justin Fields last night?
I was surprised when I saw that marker come across the TV, and it's funny, just the butterfly effect of drafts. The Panthers and Broncos take corners, so then the Eagles trade up with the Cowboys because the Cowboys don't have their corner, and then the Giants don't have the receiver they wanted, so then they trade back with the Bears. So it's just interesting if it played out a little differently. Do the Pats get Fields? Do the Bears trade up with the Eagles? Someone else? Yeah, I think it's a good pick. They have not had a quarterback ever. I feel like it's been 40 years since they've had a good quarterback. I don't know. There's something about a quarterback in a Bears uniform. It's just always hard to believe until I see it. I'm rooting for the guy. His fall from this consensus number 2 to a mid-round first round doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I don't know. The Bears have a lot of holes, though. Allen Robinson's good. David Montgomery had another solid season, but I don't know. They need a little more juice, and this is going to buy Nagy a couple years, I bet. I mean, he's got his guy now, so even if they have another poor season, come on, I just drafted my guy. Give me another year. So it's a good pick. Go all in. We'll see. I'm rooting for him.
I hope for Bears fans' sake that it doesn't buy Nagy another year, just because I'm not a fan personally. I just don't like the guy. I don't know. I don't think he's great. I think he's pretty middle of the road NFL coach, but love this for the Bears. Love that they moved up and got their guy. I'm with Griffin on. I don't understand how the guy falls from a number 2, number 3 draft pick to double digits. I didn't understand the fall at all. I didn't understand Zach Wilson being moved up ahead of Fields. I like Fields more. Even though when we did our Sports 2.0 draft, I took Wilson for the Jets, just kind of following Mel Kiper's advice rather than going, from my own eye test. Personally, Fields is my second favorite quarterback in this draft behind Trevor Lawrence. I think he's going to be a star in the NFL, and I think the Bears finally got their guy. Like Griffin said, I mean, when was the last time the Bears had a quarterback that was decent? And it's really not in our lifetimes. I mean, Jay Cutler, hit or miss. Once in a while, Jay Cutler would come out and tear the league up, and the next week he wouldn't care, and he'd be riding a bike on the sidelines and such during a playoff game. So, I'm happy for Bears fans. I'm happy to see them get their guy. That being said, I think they're a few offensive pieces away still. Their defense is pretty nasty. Their defense can definitely hold up and keep the score low for Fields to run it up if he can find something and really get it going. That being said, I think it's going to take a little more than David Montgomery and A-Rob. So hopefully they can, maybe find a few more weapons for this guy to look for. And also watch out, just something to watch for this season. Cole Kmet with Fields. Cole Kmet's a beast, and he's a low-key beast. But watch Cole Kmet at tight end this year rack up 800 or 1,000 yards with this guy throwing to him. So I'm excited to see the guy and see what he can do.
Yeah, statistically speaking, Jay Cutler is the best quarterback in Bears franchise history, which really says a lot about the history of the position within the franchise, with how quarterbacks have been valued and how the game has changed. And the Bears, you automatically think defense when you think Chicago Bears. You don't even think anything on the offensive side of the ball. But even when you do, who are the players that you think of? You think of like a Walter Payton, like a Gale Sayers in recent history, somebody like a Matt Forte. You look at letting go of Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey. It hasn't been a passing attack for the Bears. And I think for that reason, especially now that you invest that much draft capital in Justin Fields, trading a first round next year, and I think a third or fourth in there somewhere too. The Bears kind of did give up a lot to move up there. So now the rest of this draft has to be, you have to go get an O-lineman in either the second or third round, probably second. Go get a wide receiver in the third, maybe even a couple of wide receivers, surround him with some weapons, and see what this Bears offense can do. I don't think Fields is going to start week 1. I think they're probably going to give Dalton a couple weeks just to buy Fields a little more time to get used to the speed of the NFL game. But I don't think it's a stretch to say that by week 5, he could be the Bears starting quarterback.
Yeah, and I mean, the Packers, as we mentioned, could be in shambles. The Lions are awful. As we talk about pre-show, the Vikings have plenty of holes to fill. I mean, the division's up for grabs if Rodgers brings this drama to the regular season. So who knows? Maybe they're in the playoffs and that's a late first-round pick and they're no sweat off their back.
Could be. That could be one of the best value moves just because of what else is going on in the division. Like you said, Vikings, I think the Vikings right now, their odds jumped up yesterday big time as division winners. It was something like plus 340 to plus 270 to win the division shortly after the Rodgers news broke. And with an improved offensive line, Vikings went out and got Christian Darrisaw. Absolutely loved that move as a Vikings fan. Trading back 9 spots and still getting one of the top offensive linemen on the board. arguably the second best defensive tackle there. That the Vikings, now that they have a little bit more of an O-line structure, that changes everything for Minnesota. But the division is still wide open because you look at Minnesota's defense last year, they weren't getting pressure on quarterbacks. If Justin Fields has time to sit back there and make throws down the field, he'll torch the Vikings for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns like what we saw him do at Ohio State. So it's kind of wide open, but the Bears really going all in on going out and getting Justin Fields. I thought it was one of the biggest surprises of the first round. But I want to throw that question out to you guys. What stood out to you guys most in the first round of the draft last night?
Well, first of all, what stood out was one of ESPN's little intro videos, and it kind of piggybacks off our last question. Did you guys see this? You could draft a transcendent player, and then it shows, 3 or 4 like Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, and then it said, or you can draft someone who leaves your
yes.
franchise in shambles for years, and it shows Trubisky.
Mitch Trubisky.
Yes,
oh that was
my. ESPN just lit Mitch Trubisky on fire on primetime, man. I could not. That was low. That was mean by ESPN. Jesus,
where's the nearest burn unit?
It made me nauseous watching. I'm like, can you imagine being like Trubisky's mom watching this? Like, I'm gonna call somebody right now. This is not right. I don't like this.
How did that get approval to make?
I know, it was insane. Like, it was just insane. But I will say, the biggest first round surprise for me happened in the top 5. Did not like, and partially is because I'm a Dolphins fan and wanted him at 6. Did not like Cincinnati passing on Sewell and taking a receiver. And I completely understand why they did it. Put Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow back together. I mean, that combo is good for a couple thousand yards already. They've already proven it. So totally understand why they did it. After you just watched your franchise quarterback, get his ACL torn and get completely murdered by defenses because you have 0 offensive line, though, I don't understand not taking Sewell. I think Sewell is a game-changing talent, as I think we all do. I think we've talked about this a few times. I mean, this is a generational tackle here. This guy's going to be a top 5 tackle in the NFL here in a couple of years, and I think the Bengals are going to regret doing that. And who knows? Chase might be the best receiver in this, not only in this draft, but maybe he's the best receiver in the NFL in a couple of years. We'll definitely see. And I think he has the opportunity to do that with Joe Burrow. But that was the biggest surprise for me. If I'm Cincinnati, I would have taken about 10 seconds with that pick. And it's Sewell, get him on my team. Let's get Burrow some protection. I know I had one of my Bengals buddies tell me, well, it was the guards. I was like, it was the guards. That's ridiculous. I was like, you guys don't have a top 40 tackle in the NFL right now. And that's according to Pro Football Focus's grade. So their best tackle ranks 40th on PFF. So that's not great. And although they do have a young guy at Alabama they drafted last year, whose name is evading me right now, but I do believe that he is going to be very good. I just go get Panay right now. I throw him on the line. Joe Burrow no longer has to worry about getting murdered on his blind side. That's just what I would have done. And then I think the one that surprised everybody was, how much was Bill Belichick licking his chops from like 8 to 14? Just like, wow, I'm not going to have to move up to get a quarterback. And Mac Jones falls to the Pats at 15. I think that could be huge. I'm not a massive Mac Jones guy or anything, but I'm a huge Bill Belichick guy. I'm a believer that guy can make you a better football player. So excited to see what the Pats do with Mac Jones, whether it be this year or a couple of years in the future. I think that's a really neat thing for the Patriots and their fans that Mac fell that low. So, and now all of us card collectors, we can throw those Jarrett Stidham rookie cards in the trash. We can just get rid of them. We don't have to think, well, what if someday? No, just throw them away. Just throw them away. Buy the Mac Jones rookie cards in June when they come out. So, but yeah, that was it for me.
Yeah, before the draft, Erik, I probably would have agreed with you that Sewell was the right pick. But honestly, one of the surprises, there's some top talent prospects, top tackle prospects still out there that the Bengals should be able to get with this next pick. So just the way the board fell, I fell favorably for them. They probably could not predict that, but I think they'll be okay. I think the difference, I mean, having a star tackle for a decade is great. I think the difference between a first round and a second round tackle is not as egregious as a wide receiver. So I like it. Chase knew he was getting picked by the Bengals. If you saw those shoes, those orange and black shoes, he knew he was going to Cincinnati. Thinking of surprises, I guess I just don't know when teams are going to learn to stop taking running backs in the first round. And this isn't to hate on either Harris or ETN. I mean, they're both going to be targets in fantasy for sure, but there's just, you can find running backs late in the draft that can do what a stud running back, like a workhorse, can do. Just the position has continued to go down in value in the NFL, but teams continue to take them in the first round. So that was probably my biggest surprise. I'm trying to think what else really surprised me. I don't know. I'm just glad the Eagles jumped over the Giants to take their guy. I thought for sure they were going to take a lineman and force me to go jump in the Charles River in Boston, but they finally did something right, which is a surprise for me. So I'm happy.
I think you kind of touched on the point I was going to bring up, which is that the difference between Penei Sewell and the offensive lineman that you're going to get at the top of the second round, the difference there isn't as big as the difference between Jamar Chase and the other wide receivers in the rest of this draft class. I get that there's two sides to that argument of Burrow has to get protected so that he can throw it, but Burrow also has to have somebody who he can throw to. So it's kind of a double-edged sword in that front. I don't think they made a wrong choice. I think they had two equally good choices in front of them. They took the one that I think the tipping point was the LSU connection with Jamar Chase. I think if that was, say, Jalen Waddle or Devonta Smith at that pick and Chase was off the board, I think if that was the case, they absolutely go Sewell. But I think just that little bit of extra familiarity gives them the head start with the Chase pick. So I don't hate that pick. I know, Erik, you really wanted Chase to be wearing Miami Dolphins colors next year. And they do get a reunion of their own with Tua and with Jalen Waddle, who they did take at 6 overall. So it's not like Miami didn't go out and get a receiver. They do still have some weapons for Tua. I think for me, the biggest surprise was somebody that we're going to see go very early on day 2 today, and that was Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the linebacker from Notre Dame. I was really surprised that he did not end up as a first-round pick. A lot of mock drafts that I had read saw him in that 15 to about 22, 23 range, maybe on the low end, being to the Jets at 23, which they did trade that pick to Minnesota. But that was kind of the range that we saw for him. And to not see, we saw two linebackers go in the first round, maybe three. Jamin Davis went, Zaven Collins, and Micah Parsons.
And Micah, yep.
So the idea that Owusu-Koramoah wasn't one of those three was kind of surprising to me. And that's not to discredit Davis. That's not to discredit anybody there. I just thought it was really a surprising pick to see him slide that far. I think he's going to be one of the first 5 names to hear himself called this afternoon, or this evening rather. One of the early picks at the top of the second round, and a name that I've got my eyes on, and I want to ask you guys as well. Who are some of your draft day 2 players to watch?
I would go, let's stick with LSU receivers and Terrace Marshall. I thought he was going to get taken at the end of the first round. He's a big receiver who produced in the SEC. I thought so. I mean,
that's where I thought he was going.
Keep an eye on him. I think that's a guy who can slot in on any offense and produce immediately. We've seen second-round receivers can succeed in the NFL, and I'd expect a lot to be taken tonight. I love Asante Samuel Jr. I mean, it's kind of crazy how many players got picked last night that had their dads in the NFL, and Asante is just another one of those. He's a small, scrappy corner. I'd love him on the Eagles. Those are my 2 names I'm looking at that I think should succeed right away in the NFL.
Mine, I kind of thought this guy would go top 15. The Cowboys surprised me by not going this guy, and that's Trayvon Moehrig at safety. I mean, this guy's a beast. I really thought Dallas would take him. They need DBs and safeties both, and instead they added a transcendent linebacker to Vander Esch and Jalen Smith. So, you're as an Eagles fan, Griff, you're going to want to note that don't run the ball ever. However, you should be able to throw all over Dallas. They don't have any corners, and I was surprised Moehrig didn't go. I was waiting for Moehrig or Newsome to go. I really thought both of those guys could have what it takes to be late first rounders at DB, and neither one of them did. So it was surprising to me.
Newsome did.
Or Newsome did go. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, he went to Cleveland.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot Cleveland grabbed him. But
sorry, that was way late in the
it
first
was
round anyway. Later than we thought Newsome was going to go.
But I should have added that to my surprise factor a minute ago. Dallas adding Micah Parsons to already one of the best linebacker cores in the league. That was interesting to me. I mean, by all means, if you get to that point, you want to take the best player on the board. I can't blame you for taking the best available player there, but that's odd to not grab the safety or the DB and to go towards a position you're loaded at. So look for those guys to go early tonight. I've got more going to Jacksonville. That's my prediction. Very early in this round, I believe they're first in this round. So yeah,
I agree with the Micah Parsons pick to the Dallas secondary, or excuse me, to the linebacker group, and with Sean Lee retiring, and then you have J.C. Horn and Asante, or not Asante Samuel,
Surtain.
Surtain, thank you, Patrick Surtain.
Yeah.
Surtain Jr. The other junior cornerback in this draft, whose dad played in the NFL. To have both of those two off the board. Parsons really, I think, was best player available for the Cowboys at that pick. I think they nailed that pick, and they're going to be quite happy with it. But I do think you're exactly right, Erik. I think Moehrig probably goes early, goes to Dallas. That makes a ton of sense as a landing spot if he gets past Jacksonville somehow. One guy I think is going to be the first offensive lineman to hear his name called today is Tevin Jenkins. Guy was an absolute mauler with Oklahoma State last season,
Yes.
Did not allow a sack. I think over the last 2 years, he allowed a total of 4 pressures and 12 in his collegiate career. It's a ridiculous number like that, but didn't allow a sack last season at all. Really a strong tackle prospect, plays with a ton of tenacity and just go get it. Bulldog kind of mentality. I think he has some. He's got to work on reining that back in a little bit, but you love the intensity. It can get him into trouble a little bit, taking a bad penalty, a hold, but the aggressiveness is there. He's got some mechanical things to clean up, but that's an easy enough adjustment to make. I think he's going to be the first offensive lineman off the board today, and I likewise I wouldn't think he falls outside the top 10 picks in the second round, maybe even top 5 as well. Getting close to wrapping up our show here. I want to ask you guys who you thought had the best first round of the draft. And Erik, let's start with you this time.
Oh man, I'm on the spot. I was going through the draft picks already in my head. Like, who do I think had the best first round? And I'm gonna go with somebody we've already talked about, and they may not have gotten the best all around player in the draft. And maybe this guy doesn't even play this year, but I think it's something that this franchise needed terribly, and that's the Bears moving up to get their guy Justin Fields. That's massive for that franchise, man. Good for Bears fans. That's if you watched Fields play in college, you should be excited about this pick, and I think a lot of them are. And as we talked about the Bears and their quarterbacks, man, I mean, statistically, Jay Cutler is their GOAT is Jay Cutler. Can you imagine being a fan of a team where your GOAT is Jay Cutler? Like, I mean, I'm a Dolphins fan, so, Smoking Jay he's one of my favorites. I always loved Jay Cutler. I love his kind of attitude. Like, I hated it on the field, but I liked it in his stupid reality show and that type of stuff. But it'd be tough for that guy to be your franchise's best quarterback. And I would love to see Justin Fields really help the Bears out, give the Bears something to watch on the offensive side of the ball for a change, rather than just continually having some of the greatest defenses ever. Let's give them a quarterback that can throw the ball. I'd love to see it.
Griff, how about you?
I'd probably go with the Jets. Trading up there is a good move with their loaded pockets. They got their guy. We'll see if Zach Wilson ends up being a success. Just to get analytical for a second, Elijah Vera Tucker is a great name. That's a really good football name. It flows off the tongue. That's what you like to see with your guards. So I like that they get their quarterback. They invest in the trenches, and I believe they have 3 more picks today, at least 2, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that they set themselves up for success there. We might talk about them in a second. I'd say the Niners are a winner. I think Trey Lance is going to be a stud, and to be a rookie quarterback and fall into a team like the Niners that has all these pieces already. They were just in the Super Bowl and they just happened to get absurdly injured last year. All these guys are coming back. If that guy plays right away, which I think he will, I think he could have a massive year right away and an awesome career.
I agree 100% on the Trey Lance point. I almost brought up Lance myself. I think that was a fantastic pick. I've got Lance and Fields like in the exact same category. It's crazy. Like, I mean, I would have been fine with flipping a coin and grabbing one or the other. I really think both of them could be really good NFL quarterbacks.
For me, my take is that who had the best first round, every NFC North team not named the Green Bay Packers. I think everybody in the NFC North had a solid first round. The Detroit Lions didn't have to worry about trading up or trading down. Instead, they get what might be a generational offensive tackle prospect in Penei Sewell, somebody who they don't have to worry about the left tackle position for the next 10 years, assuming that Sewell stays healthy. He's that good. You've got him locked in. The Bears trading up, getting their quarterback, getting somebody who is going to put butts in seats, somebody who's going to be an exciting player and revitalize, bring some energy back to a franchise that has suffered for so long at the quarterback position. Minnesota Vikings trading down 9 spots with the Jets, still getting a quality offensive lineman. They have 4 third-round picks and 3 fourth-round picks. They traded their second-rounder to Baltimore. So they've got a lot of draft capital to move back up into the second round, get a defensive end, get a defensive tackle, a corner. They have a lot of different options they can go here. And then there's the Packers who, Eric Stokes isn't a bad cornerback, excuse me. He's not a bad pick. But you look at all of the off-field stuff with Green Bay and not taking a wide receiver in the first round and how long now? Not getting Aaron Rodgers any sort of weapons that he needs. And then this year, with all of that going on and the news coming out that Rodgers wants out and your first pick is a corner, it didn't make sense to me. I think everybody in the NFC North but the Packers won yesterday. Packers, in that regard, I think had one of the worst first rounds. So I want to throw that to you guys as well. Who had the worst first round yesterday?
I would say you hit the nail on the head right there, the Green Bay Packers, and that is they had the worst first round before the draft even started. I mean, as soon as the draft started, before they were ever on the clock, they had a tough first round. I mean, you can even take it back to last year when they took the Jordan Love. And then I don't know if you guys realize, but Jordan Love didn't win the backup spot this year. He was the third string quarterback. Mm-hmm. He could not win the backup spot. I don't know if they did that just because he's young. They want him to continually learn, and they're not trying to throw him out there to get hurt early in his career for 8 minutes left in a fourth quarter or something like that. But that to me speaks volumes. That being said, saw a lot of prima donna Aaron Rodgers talk yesterday, and I hate that because I'm such a Rodgers guy. But then last night, I was objectively thinking about the situation, and can you imagine any other franchise quarterback throwing a fit because they only have Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones? Like, what a fit to throw there. Like, oh man, I've only got a top 3 receiver and a top 5 running back. I need more. Like, That does, when you think about it,
Mm-hmm.
that looks prima donna-ish.
That's a fair point.
It's it really is, and you need more than that to go out and win a Super Bowl. You need a lot more than that. But that being said, I just you can never see a Tom Brady. I mean, look at the receivers Tom Brady played with. That being said, he did play with Randy Moss. He played with Julian Edelman. He had Wes Welker.
Mm-hmm.
He had some good guys, but he
didn't even win a Super Bowl with Moss. He made it there, but he didn't even win a Super Bowl with Moss, who one of the top wide receivers all time.
Exactly. So I would say worst first round. I agree 100% with Dan, and they had it before the draft even started, and then they continued that bad first round when they did not draft Aaron Rodgers a weapon.
Griff, how about you?
Yeah, it's funny to like look at the draft board and try and grade a worst one, because I don't watch a ton of college football, so a lot of my perspective is the countless mock drafts I've been reading. In that regard, the most surprising pick, which translates to worst in my head, is the Raiders taking Leatherwood, because no one had him going in the first round. And to just look at the board, he's taken 17th. There was not a single other tackle taken. Okay, Darrisaw 23. If the Raiders, if the Raiders loved this guy so much, it seems like they probably could have traded back, picked up some more ammo, and still got their guy. So
they could have sat in the second, I think, almost, and waited to take him in the second round.
Yeah, so in that respect, I'd probably give them a bad grade. And then, of course, I'd have to go with the Giants. Although they got a nice haul from the Bears, but they were obviously shook that the Eagles hopped over them to take Devontae Smith, because then they proceeded to take Tony in what may have been a stretch as well. So they wanted Smith bad. That trade was executed immediately once the Eagles hopped them. So they didn't get their guy. So that's a tough first round for them.
I think that the Giants continually, they're a train wreck. They continually make these mistakes. Like, I know they wanted Smith, and then they got Tony. I think you're looking at a completely wrong position. How about you get yourself an offensive line so you can see if Daniel Jones is your quarterback, or so maybe Saquon Barkley cannot get murdered for one season in his career. To me, they should have been looking offensive line, and I agree. I think Tony's a huge stretch there. And I completely forgot. That's how bad that pick was. I forgot about that Leatherwood pick. But, I guess Gruden gonna Gruden, I guess. John Gruden, amazing Monday Night Football commentary. Maybe not built for today's NFL. I just don't. He just hasn't showed me anything since he came back. And this is a guy when I was in high school, which seems like an eternity ago. I love this guy. I loved his energy that he brought. I loved watching the Bucs and the Raiders back in the day. But I believe the NFL game has left John Gruden behind, and he literally did not take the best two tackles available per my draft board. He took, I think I had Leatherwood like 4th or 5th on tackles at the moment that he took it. I think it was 4th is where I had him at that point. So,
listen, Leatherwood's a great name too, so he should be a success based on my model. Also, the Leatherwood fam cam was electric. If you saw when he got picked, that guy was busting moves in that living room. So, it was a big night for Alabama. People clearly just wanted a piece of the pie there. So, he'll probably be good. It just seems like they could have got him a little later.
I think so too.
I agree. I think Jenkins would have made a lot of sense given the type of player that Gruden wants added to his team. Maybe Leatherwood blocks for Spider 2. Why Banana better than, that might be a bit of a narrow casting joke there, but but Leatherwood, to me, that pick didn't make a whole lot of sense. I agree with Erik. I had Jenkins, and then of course Darrisaw ahead of Leatherwood on the board, but it still fits a need for the Raiders. I think they can still be somewhat happy with the pick, but I think they're definitely going to be looking at that. And to the Giants' point, I was really surprised they traded down with Rashawn Slater still on the board. I thought that made so much sense as a pick to the Giants.
Absolutely.
Really fit a big need. Not that the Giants didn't need a wide receiver. They got to, especially if Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes is going to be their quarterback for the next say 3 to 5 years, maybe beyond that, who knows? But at least for the foreseeable future, you got to get some weapons around him. You're getting Saquon Barkley back. They got Kenny Galladay in free agency, but really don't have a whole lot of weapons to bolster around him. I do think passing on Slater is a move that they're going to regret, even if Kadarius Toney turns out to be a great player. I had Toney more in a early to mid second round grade. I was a little surprised they passed on somebody like a Rashad Bateman, like a Terrace Marshall Jr., that those guys might have been a little bit better of a scheme fit as well for the Giants based on their needs. But Toney, a really good player, really fun to watch. He's elusive. He's so fast. His burst and explosiveness are off the charts. And he was early on, I think, before pro days and before doing the virtual combine drills and whatnot, he was looked at as maybe a potential first round guy. So it's not, to me, the pick on Toney isn't as big a reach as Leatherwood. Still a little bit of a reach, but I think Giants fans probably will still be happy with Toney, but I think they're definitely going to regret leaving Rashawn Slater on the board and trading down out of that pick. Last question for you guys. Biggest fantasy impact for next season. We've talked about a lot of players across the board here. Obviously, quarterbacks in any fantasy system are going to be the biggest players, especially if you're in a 2-quarterback league. Griff, I know you do a couple of those. Erik, I think you might as well. Mm-hmm. So we'll probably see some quarterback play. Trevor Lawrence is going to be a day one starter. Trey Lance may not start on day one, but he's definitely got the best group of weapons around him for any of these first-round quarterbacks that we know on so far. If we're looking outside of the quarterback position, who do you guys think is going to have the biggest fantasy impact this year?
Outside the quarterback position, it's funny that you said that because I was going to start by saying, well, the answer is Trevor Lawrence, but we're not going to talk about that. We'll just go to a skill player rather than a quarterback, because Trevor's probably going to be, he's probably going to be your biggest impact. To me, I've got Lawrence starting for he's probably going to be top 12, I would say, his rookie year. So I would say outside of Lawrence, I know most would go receiver here. I'm going to be weird and say Najee Harris. I think Najee Harris has 1,000-yard season in his rookie year easily. I think this guy is as transcendent as you can get at running back. I wanted the Dolphins to take him at 18. I got yelled at by everybody. I'm sure Griff would have yelled too, because everybody hates taking running backs that high. But, I mean, they're still the most important, in my opinion, outside of quarterback, they're the most important position. Well, outside of quarterback and left tackle, they're the most important position offensively. And I have many reasons to think that. And outside of Bill Belichick, no other head coach can push a team through a Super Bowl without a running back, without maybe not a star running back, but a 1,000-yard guy. So I think Harris is going to be huge. I'd also like to know, I don't know, when's Joe Burrow get back? I need to know that information to continue this answer. When's Burrow back?
Probably, I don't think he'll be first week of the season. I think the timetable is still a little off on that. But by week 5, I think he will be back and be good to go. He'll probably be, it would be a push to get him back for week 1. They'll probably give him a few extra weeks just to make sure he's 100% and good to go.
I would say if Joe Burrow starts 11 or 12 games this year, Jamar Chase would be my number 2 answer there. Chase is obviously, to me, was head and shoulders the best receiver in this draft. And like I said, you've got an 1,900-yard connection with Joe Burrow already. They've already got the chemistry built. So if Joe Burrow plays 11 or 12 games this season, you're going to see a monster season out of Jamar Chase, in my opinion. And really, with this question, I think there's so many guys that could have huge fantasy impacts this year, which is maybe a little different than other seasons. So,
Griff, you and I talking pre-show, you had a very interesting take on who you thought was going to have the biggest, and I want you to share that one with us.
Sure. Yeah, I have a few. For fantasy, it's a volume thing. And so when you're looking at the board, people like Pitts and Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle should have good careers, but there's a lot of weapons on those teams. So I prefer taking the quarterbacks of those teams. Like, I know to cheat on your question, but Matt Ryan's stock went up.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're looking throughout the board, even someone like ETN, there's a lot of mouths to feed, and they have a lot of running backs there. So Harris is going to get worked into the ground immediately. I think Rashad Bateman, the receiver out of Minnesota, got picked up by Baltimore. They have no pass catchers on that team. And obviously they're run first, but they have to throw it to someone. So I think that's a guy who could step in and have a big year, be a top 20 receiver right away. And then maybe Devontae Smith as well. I mean, the Eagles don't have a lot of weapons, so someone has to get the ball. So it really is a volume thing. And those are probably the three guys. And then again, to cheat on your question again, I even think someone like Justin Herbert is going to have a better year because the Chargers get Slater to protect their guy. Those things matter. So that's how I'm looking at it. One round in, we'll see. I think tonight is going to be some really foundational pieces as well, some receivers and running backs that should have big years right away.
I really like both of you saying that Najee Harris with Pittsburgh. You look at the Steelers last year, and the Steelers were a running back away, I think, from a Super Bowl run. They had a lights-out defense. They had receivers who could move the ball down the field with Smith-Schuster and with Claypool. You know, they had a lot of weapons, but their running game held them back so much. Fewest yards per attempt. It was so bad last year. And even with the argument of not wanting to take a running back in the first round, I think for Pittsburgh, you had to go out and get the best running back on the table because you knew at the turn of the second round, he was going to be gone by the Steelers' second-round pick. Could they maybe have traded back a few spots to get him? Sure. But I think for Pittsburgh, Najee Harris was the guy that they absolutely had to walk away from this draft with, and they did that. I think huge fantasy impact there. Griff, really like your point, too, of Rashawn Slater. I think that's a perfect fit for the Chargers, just a natural scheme fit, gives them a lot of options with how they move the ball down the field. Slater keeping Herbert, keeping him off his back, keeping him upright, opening things up in the run game. Really, really should be a good fit there. And I think we're in for, once again, another really fun fantasy football season. Expanded to 17 games now, so we'll see how that comes into play. The wear and tear on players as well. And an extra week of fantasy football, who doesn't want that?
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. Gonna have to tinker with the schedule a little bit.
It's gonna be different now with the, I don't know. I'm in so many leagues. I'm probably in 14 or 15 leagues. Almost all for money too. It's insane, and that's in every sport. I'm in 14 or 15 per sport. Like, my life is fantasy a lot. I will say, guy to watch for that's going to come off the board, I think, pretty quickly today, Javonte Williams. And hopefully to Miami at 36 is my hope. I know we have Gaskin. I'm not a huge Gaskin believer. I think he's a good running back, solid guy, probably not an every down back, small guy. I think we should go get Williams. I think he can be an every down back in the NFL, and I think he can make a fantasy impact pretty much instantly for a team. And like Griff said, with Etienne and Najee, I think Najee, he's got the volume. I mean, Najee's gonna touch the ball 25 times a game. It's easily. So also, it was weird to hear Dan say the Steelers running game killed him last year. I've just never heard that saying in my life. The Steelers running game killed him. That is not a statement that we make often. And I think that's something that Pittsburgh wanted corrected right now. So, and I think they made a great move to do that. So, but to be honest, let's all be honest. The biggest fantasy impact in this draft is your number one pick. I mean, honestly, if we're including quarterbacks, it's probably going to be Lawrence. So
maybe Trey Lance.
Yeah, could be.
Maybe, but he's probably not going to start week one unless they move Garoppolo.
And also sleeper quarterback, Mac Jones. Cam Newton gets hurt. Mac Jones starts. Bill Belichick does something weirdly crazy, and he throws for 4,000 yards somehow. You just watch it; it'll happen.
I'm a Matt Castle, so like a capable starting quarterback.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, you do the same thing with Mac Jones.
He was very good. Belichick was very good for a couple of years there at getting backups to come in and play 2 games and then get massive contracts. He did that with four different backup quarterbacks left Pittsburgh, left New England after they played like 2 games that were amazing and made $1 bajillion to sit on somebody's bench for several years because they look like starters when they're playing for Mr. Belichick. He's very good at what he does. So, but yeah, just watch it. As a Dolphins fan, I'm so used to the Patriots pulling something out of their rear end and leading the East. I just would not be surprised if Belichick did something cool with Mac Jones this year.
All right. Well, I think we're just about out of time for today. Erik, Neff, Griffin, Carroll, want to thank you guys for joining the program today. Enjoy the next couple days of the draft here. We should be in for a really good time over the next couple days too, and great weather as well this weekend. I don't know if that's the case where you guys are at, but weather here is perfect. Sunny 60s. It's awesome. Going to get outside when the draft isn't on and enjoy being outside as well.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Dan.
Yep. Well, that's it for today's show. Want to thank you all for watching us here at home. Remember that you can catch us at any time on Spotify, on iTunes. You can rewatch the show on Facebook, Twitter. We're also on YouTube. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. We want to bump up that subscriber count. But again, thank you so much for joining us here this morning. For Griffin Carroll, for Erik Neff, I'm Dan Bradley. Enjoy the rest of your day and have a great weekend, everybody.